Hi, and welcome to our Mental Health First Aid Q&A session. I'm Bradley Smith, and I'm one of the Health and Wellbeing consultants at Westfield Health, and I'm also a qualified mental health first aider. I'm joined today by Cathy Lawson, an independent workplace health and wellbeing consultant, MHFA instructor and coach. Would you like to introduce yourself, Cathy?
Hi, Brad. Good to see you again. Good to be here. So I have been a mental health first aid instructor for some 6 years now. Gosh, that's gone really quickly. And I do other things other than delivering the mental health first aid training. Anything to do with well-being and diet and nutrition is pretty much my bag. But my passion is still very much mental health first aid. So it's good to see that there's still so much interest from your clients around this important topic.
Definitely. So today, Cathy will be answering some of the questions about investing in mental health first aid training, which we didn't get a chance to cover during our previous webinar. If you did miss the previous webinar, providing mental health support within organisations, you can watch this back on our website. So first of all, Cathy, what is the role of a mental health first aider?
Well, pretty much like a physical first aider, as a mental health first aider, you are that first port of call. You are that first level of support. And so you can have a proactive side to encouraging people to be well, but also you are there in a capacity to help people when they're not so good and they might be developing poor mental health or mental illness. You would be signposting them to get professional help. You'd be encouraging them to get support from friends and family and work colleagues. So you are that person that is not the therapist or the counsellor or the paramedic or the nurse or the doctor or the mental health specialist. You are like a physical first aider. You are there as that first port of call to signpost people to get the help that's going to be right for them.
Right. So with that in mind, how would you go about choosing mental health first aiders for your business?
I'm so glad you've asked that question, Brad, because it's very important that when organisations are selecting people for this role, first of all, ask people, are you actually interested in this subject? That might sound like an odd thing to ask, but many organisations don't, so make sure you do that. Also, consider selecting them on the basis of, are they good listeners? Are they people that can keep confidences? Are they available to do the role? It's no good having somebody that works on a critical piece of equipment that couldn't step away if someone was in distress, very much like you wouldn't select that person to be a physical first aider. So make sure that they understand it's not about resolving their own personal mental health issues, because it's not a therapy session. It's and it can be quite triggering. So if someone is perhaps feeling a little bit vulnerable, it's not the right time for them perhaps to do that course. So yeah, take some time to select the right people. Have they got the time? Are they interested? Do they want to do it? Because it is quite a commitment. So be clear what you're asking people to do.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, all really important considerations. I think for me personally, the highlight is, like you say, making sure that that person is actually readily available. You know, if need be, like say if somebody's operating a piece of machinery that can't be left unattended, they're not going to be the right person for the role. Yeah.
No, that's right.
So how many mental health first aiders should you have within the workplace?
Well, it depends. And I would always take my cue from what's going on in my business. Do I have a lot of sickness absence or mental health issues like depression, anxiety, or not? Then perhaps you might need more. So think about the culture, think about what sort of roles you've got in your workplace, and then you can always take your cue from the HSE would say that you have to have a physical first aider 1 to 25 plus employees. So I would say have at least one. However, if you've got 25 plus employees, but what I would say is with a mental health first aid role, it's always good to have at least 2, because then you've got some support for somebody whilst they're doing that role, and perhaps holiday cover as well, or they may be off sick for whatever reason. So I would take you from physical first aid requirements and at least have 2 in your organisation.
Brilliant. So what job area or kind of level of seniority should you choose to train as a mental health first aider?
Easy answer to that one, because I would say all. And I've trained the managing director, the CEO, the finance director, to the shop floor supervisor, to a salesperson. I've trained the lot. Don't make the mistake of training all your HR people, because not everybody's going to talk to your HR people. So I would select a good cross-section of people from across your business at all levels. Again, to the extent to which those people are available to do that role.
Definitely. So how can you guarantee anonymity for the mental health first aiders in the smaller organisations and the employees obviously receiving any guidance from the mental health first aiders?
So when the mental health first aider is trained, we always train them to make sure that they keep conversations anonymous as far as possible, and person anonymous as far as possible. And what we say is the only time that you need to break a confidence is in the case of risk. And we train them to identify what do we mean by that? What do we mean by a crisis? Because if there is no crisis and there is no threat of danger to self or to other people, then there is no need to tell anyone about what's being said to you. What we do is we encourage people to record conversations. Now, by that, obviously, with GDPR rules, it means you have to record it in the right way. But there's nothing wrong with making a little electronic note in your diary to say, I've had a conversation with this person on this day. And you don't need to give details of what was spoken about, but you have a record of having had that conversation. So you're still keeping it confidential, and you're still keeping that information only being recorded by yourself, because there is no reason to share it. And you break the very culture that you're trying to build if you start, not necessarily gossiping about people, but if you start sharing information with other people that doesn't need to be shared. So I think it's important to respect that.
I suppose a lot of organisations, I know from the feedback that we got on the poll within the last webinar, is a lot of organisations do have mental health first aiders in place currently. A reoccurring question that we got asked was, how can you promote the mental health first aiders within the workplace just to make sure that they're fully utilised?
So there's a few things there. After the course, I send people a little digital badge, and they can put that little digital badge on the bottom of their email. So that's a nice subtle way of letting people know. If you're doing Teams and Zoom calls, like we've put our names and our pronouns, you can start to put mental health first aider there. So that's another place you can show it. Where you've got your posters for your physical first aiders, put your poster next to it for your mental health first aiders. You're sending a very strong message, which is this is as important, your mental health, as your physical health. Put it on the back of toilet doors. People like to sit and look at toilet doors, so you know that's another good place to put posters. Put it on your notice boards. I've had a company that went to the extent of having roller banners with big photographs on it. You don't have to go that far, but it worked for their organisation if you wanted to really advertise it. And I would say, make an effort when you are qualified, be proud that you are a mental health first aider, and let people know. If you don't tell anybody, there was no point in doing it. And people, oh, isn't that bragging? Well, if ever there's a time to be proud of what you've achieved, then now is it. So put it out on your intranet, send it on your email, send a little note, put it on your LinkedIn profile, send a little note to people and say, hey, look, I'm a mental health first aider, I've got my certificate, and this is what the role entails. Put a little bit of information in there. And that's a really good thing to do, to let people know. But certainly don't not tell anyone else, otherwise what's the point? Who's going to know that that's the role that you now have?
Yeah, definitely. All great suggestions. Something I've found from the role I'm in as a consultant, a lot of organisations tend to hold like wellbeing days where it will be a reminder of the mental health first aiders. They're also seen as champions as well. The mental health first aiders will act as general wellbeing champions. So I think that can be quite a nice way of reminding and promoting the availability as well.
And I've got one I prepared earlier. There's a little lanyard here as well. They get given at the end of the course, so they can wear lanyards around their neck. You can buy badges off Mental Health First Aid England, physical badges, and put them on. Some people will have, you know, like you have a tabard, they'll get a green tabard made up and put it on the back of there. There's lots of different creative ways that you can let people know that you are a mental health first aider. So.
Another question that we had was, how do you adapt the mental health first aid role for hybrid and remote workers, and can it be harder picking up on some of the physical cues that you might normally notice if you're office based or site based?
This is something that comes up a lot, actually, particularly when I'm delivering the course online, because the course is available face-to-face or online now, and it's the identical course. So people often ask, how do we do this? Well, I would say it's about being more proactive. It's about checking in perhaps a little more often than you would normally, because it is more difficult to see the clues, but you're looking for, not just when you're physically in front of somebody, and we can all maybe appear great for half an hour, but you're also looking for, how do they communicate outside of that meeting? Maybe in their email messages, are they a bit snippy? Are they a little bit curt? Has something changed in the way that they are communicating? Do they look a little bit down when they're on the screen? Are they a bit sort of, oh, can't be bothered today? Then don't be afraid to contact them outside of that meeting and just say, how are you? If you haven't checked in for a while, just wondered how you're getting on. You know, sometimes we're a little bit, oh, isn't that being a little bit nosy? Well, frankly, when you're working remotely, I mean, let's be honest, some people have been recruited remotely, they've never met anybody that they work with. So let's actually make a little bit more effort to get to know people. And when you are using remote working as a way of working, then perhaps, like you would, you might say to your work colleague, oh, shall we grab a drink after work, or fancy a coffee? If you do it remotely, you can make a bit of fun out of it. So let's have a bit of a social, let's have a quiz, and you will start to get to know people's personalities and how they are. Some people will engage, some people won't, but what you're looking for is anything changing? You're looking for what's changing, because that is probably your first clue that something's not okay, that they're not coping so well.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that I've personally noticed, especially with the remote working, is a lot of people are naturally quite camera shy anyway, so they might join a Teams call, a Zoom call, they might always join with a camera off. But one of the changes that you can spot is if you do have colleagues who, you know, usually join with the cameras on and they'll engage, participate, and then all of a sudden they'll start joining with cameras off, not engaging as much. If that's a bit of an ongoing thing, that can be a bit of a sign as well that there might be something going on that people aren't aware of.
Yeah, good one. Absolutely, Brad. Absolutely. I think the key message here is just be perhaps a bit more proactive than you would ordinarily. So, yeah, definitely.
So another of the questions that we got was, how do you get the buy-in from the leadership team for investing in mental health first aid training?
There's a few ways of answering this. First of all, I would always want to, you can do like a half-day awareness raising. And I think it's a good thing for managers and leaders to actually, if they don't want to be a full mental health first aider, but actually they'd maybe like to know a little bit more about it, do a half-day awareness, because I never get bad feedback from that insofar as, oh, that was a waste of time. Quite the opposite. I did one yesterday. I had some very senior directors and managers on this course, and they were saying, well, one person actually said, this was so good, I didn't want it to end. I thought, wow, that was amazing. So I think, yeah, let's put the leaders through the awareness so they know what we're talking about, they know how important it is. And in doing so, it will also highlight the fact that not only is it the right thing to do to take care of your employees, there's some valid reasons for that. Do you want to be an employer of choice? Because we have a very discerning workforce these days, particularly if you're trying to recruit or retain people, then let's make sure that we are demonstrating that we care about our people. And that means not just doing what's legally required of us from a health and safety point of view, but let's do a little bit more than that and look at people's well-being as well. So there's also the financial cost as well, that when people are performing at their best, when they're well, they're happy, their mental health is in a good place, then they are better performers, they are more effective. and that then affects the bottom line of the business. And we know, don't we, that the statistics on mental health are so sobering these days that actually it costs money. You lose somebody out of your organisation, it can cost you £25,000 to replace them per person. £25,000, that's a lot of money. So if you look after them in the first place and they don't leave because they feel that the culture isn't supporting them, that they can't open up about their mental health, that they don't trust that they can talk about their depression in the same way they talk about their broken leg or the broken arm, then they're going to leave. And then that's costing you 25 grand to replace them. It's a lot of money off the bottom line of your business. So it's not just the financial right thing to do, but it's also it's the sensible thing to do. And you can put, if anyone wants to convince their senior leaders, put a business case together. There are a lot of statistics out there that demonstrate how much money it's costing industry for people going off sick for things like depression and anxiety. They are overtaking musculoskeletal issues now, which used to be the reason. It's no longer the case.
Yeah, definitely. I know we've touched on the mental health aware course, the shorter version of the training. Is there any particular scenarios or sectors that you think that course might be particularly useful to, Cathy?
Well, I could say all, because where you've got people in any industry, then it's going to be relevant. And I know Westfield have had a lot of people from all different sectors, and I train people from all different sectors. Construction have a lot of issues around mental health. You're more likely to die through suicide than a serious accident in the construction industry. So in those industries, definitely. We know that there are high levels of stress in the health industries as well, in the NHS and other caring professions. I get a lot of people from there. Goodness, where else? Public sector again. So it's relevant to all industries. Interestingly, I get a lot of male-dominated manufacturing industries as well, and they're struggling to know how to connect with men on the shop floor. So yeah, it's relevant to any of those industries, isn't it?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, like obviously say like the construction industry at the minute is quite a big one where we're looking to put mental health first aiders in place. Any examples where you've had recently? Have you had any positive feedback from the company where it's been a good success having the training?
So this reminds me of an organisation I was working with, and the managing director was on the course, and he was a very keen golfer, and he said at the end of the course, this was a full mental health first aid course, and he said at the end of it, every Sunday I always used to meet with my buddies and we'd spend 20 minutes chatting about our ailments and our balls, and he didn't mean his golf balls at that moment. And he said, so now we're going to have to take 30 minutes because clearly what we need to do is now start talking about our feelings and how that's impacting on us from that perspective. And that was the managing director of a construction organisation, and he said, I just see the relevance of it. I just see the importance and and I sound like we're picking on men here, but also the generational issue where men weren't talking about their mental health. So I think, yeah, and always, Brad, the feedback. I had again a guy that was on a shop floor, and he came on the first day, and he was a bit, not really sure whether this is for me. I'm not really sure if this is right, and what am I going to do with this? And when he left, I almost felt a lump in my throat because he said, you know what, this has been life-changing. And I thought, wow, he's been here for 2 days. But I understood what he meant. He just meant I just didn't understand this subject. I didn't understand the language. I didn't understand how to talk about it. I didn't understand the importance of just having a conversation with somebody and having the confidence to have that conversation. He said it's just changed, not just for what I'm going to do in the workplace, but it's changed what I'm going to do personally. And he was a middle-aged guy, so he wasn't a youngster. So I think, yeah, feedback from that point of view, Brad, it's humbling actually when you're when you're on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, it's great to hear. It's really interesting as well, considering, like you say, with the bit of a generational divide. It's probably something that's not often taken into consideration, but I think when you start having these conversations, you sit back and you think, oh, it is something that we've never really talked about and we've never really discussed. So to get that change in place, especially if you've got company directors having those discussions, we all know change starts at the top. So yeah, it's brilliant feedback to hear.
Yeah, brilliant. I think the younger generation of men coming through now, Brad, they seem to have a better language to talk about this subject, which is very refreshing and heartening, and long may that continue, because I think we still have quite a way to go before we've got everyone on the same page, recognising that we can all talk about this subject. We don't have to fix people. We can actually be there, signpost them, help them, support them. And just that little bit of time taken to say, talk to me, tell me how you feel, and how can I help? That's it. It's almost as simple as that, you know. How do you feel and how can I help? What do you need? Yeah,
definitely. So that is all that we've got time for today, unfortunately, but thank you again, Cathy, for all of your advice. You've provided some really useful insights, which I'm sure all the viewers will find extremely helpful. If you are interested in finding out any more about mental health first aid training and what Westfield Health can provide, we do have a variety of courses which you can find more out on our website or by email at businessinquiries@westfieldhealth.com. Or if you're already a customer with us, you can also get in touch with your health and wellbeing consultant. Thank you.
Bye, Brad. Bye.
Thanks, Cathy.